The unexpected encounter. Jake Darrow didn't expect to find anything out of the ordinary on his usual shift at the Outer Rim station. A mechanic by trade, he spent his days repairing everything from freighters and mining rigs to old, barely functional ships that no one else would touch. He was good at his job. Hell, he was the best on this backwater station. But today was different. The first sign that something was wrong came when the station's sensors flashed a warning. A ship, massive and unfamiliar, was approaching. The comms crackled with an urgent message. Unidentified vessel. This is Station Delta 2. State your intentions. The voice on the other end was stern, but Jake knew the tone well. It was the protocol officer, Captain Darrow, doing her job. The ship didn't answer. Jake watched from the station's hangar bay as the alien vessel drifted closer, its hull scorched and battered, as if it had been through a brutal firefight. It wasn't like anything he had seen before. Angular and sleek, its surface shimmered with an iridescent glow that seemed to pulse with an internal energy. Whatever it wasn't human. It looked ancient, almost like something out of a myth. "Come on, Darrow, give him a chance," Jake muttered to himself. He wasn't on duty, but that didn't matter when a challenge presented itself. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was a problem solver. And fixing alien ships? Well, that was a hell of a puzzle. The ship docked with a hiss, and a hatch opened slowly. Jake pulled on his coveralls, grabbed his toolkit, and headed out into the bay. He knew this could be trouble, but he was always up for an adventure. As he approached the ship, a group of figures emerged. They were humanoid, but unmistakably alien, tall, athletic, their skin tinged with an odd metallic hue, and their features sharp and angular. Their eyes, however, were what caught his attention the most. Large, glowing, and intensely focused. One of them stepped forward, her presence commanding. She was taller than Jake by a good foot, with skin that shimmered like silver in the light. Her eyes narrowed as she regarded him, studying him with an intensity that almost made him take a step back. She wore a dark armor that looked too sophisticated for anything human-made, and her posture radiated both strength and authority. "You are the mechanic?" she asked, her voice smooth, though with an edge of wariness. Jake nodded. "That's right. You're in need of a repair. I'm guessing." She didn't answer immediately, just stared at him, her alien eyes unblinking. After a long pause, she spoke again, this time in a language Jake didn't understand. He winced. "You know, I don't speak whatever that is," he admitted, "but if you need help, I'm the guy." The alien woman, Jake had already mentally assigned her the title of leader based on her posture, looked at the others in her group. They exchanged murmurs in their language, voices soft and urgent. Then she turned back to him, her eyes still cold but slightly softer now. "Ship," she said, her accent thick and guttural. "Damaged. Need fix." Jake raised an eyebrow. "That's more like it. All right, let me take a look." He waved for them to follow him, leading them into the hangar where his station was set up. The aliens hesitated at first, clearly unfamiliar with the human environment. But the leader gave a subtle nod, and the others followed, their eyes scanning everything around them as if they were assessing a battlefield. Jake smiled to himself. These were warriors, no doubt about it. He led them to the ship's hull, which was a patchwork of technology Jake didn't recognize, but he could tell by the way it hummed with power that it wasn't just a simple transport vessel. The ship had been through hell. Multiple blasts had left dents and scorches, and the entire aft section was exposed, a tangle of wires and damaged systems. But Jake could see the potential. "I'll need to pull some parts from storage. Might take a while," Jake said, rubbing his chin as he examined the damage. "Shouldn't be a problem, though. You're lucky. This is the kind of thing I can fix." The alien leader studied him again. "Fix fast. We cannot stay." Jake glanced at her. "You're in a rush?" The woman didn't answer right away, her gaze shifting to the far corner of the hangar, where the lights flickered ominously. Then she gave a slight nod. "Chased. Enemies." Jake's mind raced. Chased by who? She didn't answer, her eyes now distant. But her meaning was clear. Whoever they were running from, it wasn't something to be taken lightly. The air around them seemed to grow heavier, the unspoken tension thickening as the alien women glanced warily toward the hangar doors. Jake felt his heart pick up a beat. This was no ordinary repair job, but he wasn't about to back down now. Not when he saw the determination in their eyes, not when the challenge was right in front of him. "All right," Jake said, standing up and wiping his hands on his coveralls. "Let's get to work. I'll have you patched up in no time." As he began to move toward the tool racks, the alien leader remained silent, watching him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. There was something in her gaze, a mix of curiosity and something darker, that told him this wasn't just about fixing a ship. There was a lot more at stake than a simple repair. And somehow, Jake knew that his life was about to change forever. Repair and revelation. Jake worked fast, hands steady despite the complexity of the alien technology laid bare before him. The ship's hull was scarred deeply, but its core systems still hummed faintly with energy. The alien women watched silently, their eyes flicking between him and the ship as if measuring every move. "Looks like you took a serious beating," Jake said, running a gloved hand over a fractured panel. Sparks still popped intermittently from exposed wiring. "I've seen my share of crashes, but whatever hit you packed a punch." The leader, who had introduced herself through a translator device as Kira, stepped closer. "Attack. Pursued by the Zarkath," she said sharply. "They want our ship, our people." Jake frowned. "Zarkath? Never heard of them, but sounds like you're running from trouble." Kira's eyes darkened. "Trouble that means death. Or worse, captivity." Jake nodded, more out of sympathy than understanding. His mind was already racing through what he needed to fix first. The power core, navigation arrays, and the hull breaches. "All right, I'm gonna need some parts," he said, heading to the storage racks. "Some of this tech is way beyond my usual stuff, but I got a few tricks." The alien women followed him closely. Though their expressions remained stoic, Jake caught glimpses of exhaustion and weariness beneath their tough exteriors. "Tell me more," Jake said as he pulled tools and parts from his shelves. "What's the story here? What are you doing all the way out here?" Kira hesitated, then gave a brief explanation through the translator. Their people had been fleeing a brutal war. The Zarkath were relentless hunters, notorious for enslaving captured species. Kira's group was a band of warriors and refugees, trying to find safe haven and a chance to fight back. Jake listened carefully. "Sounds like you've been through hell." "We have no choice," Kira replied. "Our survival depends on this ship, and on those who can keep it flying." Jake felt a sudden respect for these alien women. They weren't just travelers or explorers. They were fighters, survivors. He admired their resilience. Back at the ship, Jake crouched beside a damaged control panel and began carefully rewiring connections, his fingers nimble and sure. He studied the alien circuitry, adapting human repair techniques where possible, but also improvising. The ship's systems were advanced, with components that seemed almost alive, reacting subtly to his touch. "Your technology is impressive," Jake admitted aloud. "Not easy to understand, but fascinating." Kira watched closely. "Our science is old, passed down from ancestors. You, human, have skill. You repair what others cannot." Jake smiled. "I've had practice." He glanced up. "But I'm going to need some power cores to replace the damaged ones. Got anything you can spare?" Kira shook her head. "No, this ship is all we have." That was a problem. Jake frowned, then thought quickly. "All right, I might be able to scavenge parts from other broken ships here at the station. Could be tricky matching the tech, but I'll make it work." Kira gave a curt nod. "We trust you." The trust weighed heavily on Jake. This wasn't just a job anymore. These women were depending on him, not just for their ship, but for their survival. Hours passed as Jake worked, sweat beading on his forehead under the station's harsh lights. The alien women kept watch, sometimes speaking in their language, sometimes silent. A strange camaraderie grew, born of necessity and mutual respect. At one point, Jake caught Kira watching him with something unreadable in her glowing eyes. "You okay?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "This repair, it means more than a fixed ship. It means hope." Jake realized then that what he was doing was bigger than he'd thought. It wasn't just mechanics and metal. It was life itself. Suddenly, the station's alarms blared, jolting everyone. The hangar doors sealed with a heavy clang. Jake grabbed a nearby console. What now? Kira's eyes flashed with alarm. Zarkath's ship's near. They followed us. The hangar shook as distant explosions echoed. Jake's heart pounded. This wasn't just about fixing a ship anymore. They were in a war zone. We don't have much time, Jake said. I'll get the ship ready to launch. You get ready to defend the station. Kira's warriors nodded, their fierce faces set. Jake's fingers flew over the controls, igniting engines, running diagnostics, bypassing damaged circuits. The ship stirred to life with a soft hum, lights blinking on the control panels. Almost there, he muttered. One of the alien women approached, holding a compact weapon unfamiliar to Jake, but clearly advanced. She glanced at him. You fight. Jake shrugged. I've held a blaster before. Not a soldier, but I can hold my own. She nodded. Good. The tension thickened as footsteps and voices approached the hangar. The enemy was close. Jake gripped a wrench tightly. Let's see if this human mechanic can keep you alive. Kira gave a faint smile, rare and genuine. We fight together. Jake felt something stir inside him. A fierce pride and determination. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was a lifeline, a last hope. As the first enemy forces breached the station's perimeter, Jake and the alien warriors braced for the fight to come. The repair wasn't finished yet, but neither was the battle. The unexpected battle. The hangar doors thundered open, sending a rush of cold air and a sharp light flooding inside. Jake's heart hammered in his chest as the first wave of Zarkath warriors spilled into the station. Their forms swift and brutal, tall, heavily armored, and wielding weapons that glowed with lethal energy. Jake tightened his grip on the wrench he'd grabbed from his workbench. It wasn't much of a weapon, but it was all he had. Around him, the alien women shifted into battle stance, their eyes flashing with a warrior's fury. Kira stood at the forefront, commanding her group with cold precision. Jake, behind that console. Kira barked. Use the environment. Jake darted to a nearby maintenance console, heart pounding as he scrambled to hack the station's automated defenses. His hands flew over the controls, rerouting power to the security turrets lining the hangar's edges. Come on, he muttered, sweat slicking his brow. A volley of energy blasts tore through the air, lighting up the hangar as turrets sprang to life. Several attackers fell, their armor melting under the station's defensive fire. But more pressed forward, relentless and savage. Jake ducked behind a stack of cargo crates, just as a plasma bolt scorched the floor inches from his feet. His mind raced. This was no ordinary fight. These were predators, trained to kill and capture. Jake, over here, Kira called, dispatching an enemy with swift, brutal strikes of her own. She moved like a whirlwind, lethal and graceful, a warrior born and bred for combat. Jake felt a surge of admiration and a fierce determination not to be left behind. He spotted a damaged hover drone nearby, its systems offline. Taking a risk, Jake yanked open its control panel and began fiddling with the circuits. If he could get it working, even for a few minutes, it might provide much-needed support. Energy blasts sizzled past him as he worked. Sweat dripped into his eyes. Finally, with a crackle and a hum, the drone powered up, its tiny rotor blades spinning to life. Jake grabbed the controller and sent the drone buzzing toward the attackers. The machine sprayed bursts of stun energy, disrupting the enemy's formation. The alien women seized the moment, cutting down several assailants. Kira caught Jake's eye and nodded approvingly. Good. More Zarkath surged forward, relentless as ever. One lunged at Jake, towering over him with claws bared. Jake barely rolled out of the way, his wrench smashing against the attacker's wrist. The creature snarled and swiped again, but Jake kept dodging, his mind sharp despite the chaos. Behind him, the alien women fought with fierce coordination, their weapons crackling with alien power. Kira took down 2 attackers in swift succession, then turned to aid a wounded comrade. Jake's breath came in ragged gasps. The station shook with explosions as the fight intensified. He realized the attackers weren't just trying to capture the ship. They wanted to destroy the station and everyone inside. The thought steeled his nerves. "We can't hold them much longer." Jake shouted to Kira as he reloaded a salvaged blaster pistol, feeling its unfamiliar weight in his hands. "We hold," Kira said firmly. "For our people. For survival." Using the station's structural layout to his advantage, Jake led a small group through side corridors, setting traps and barricades. His knowledge of the station's systems allowed them to funnel the attackers into kill zones where the alien women's combat skills could shine. At one point, Jake hacked a gravity generator, creating a localized zero-gravity field. Enemies caught in it floated helplessly, easy targets for the warriors. "Impressive," Kira said, a rare smile flickering across her face. Jake grinned back. "That's human ingenuity for you." Hours passed in a brutal, exhausting blur. The Zarkath forces began to falter, their numbers thinning under the combined assault of human tech and alien combat prowess. Finally, the attackers retreated, wounded and beaten. The station was battered but intact. Jake wiped grime and sweat from his face, his body aching. Kira approached, her expression unreadable. "You fought well. Better than expected." Jake shrugged, catching his breath. "I'm no soldier, just a mechanic who knows how to survive." Kira's eyes softened just a fraction. "You are more than that. You are an ally." The ship's systems hummed steadily now, fully repaired and ready. Jake had managed to restore its engines and weapons arrays, blending human tech ingenuity with alien craftsmanship. "This ship's going to get you out of here," Jake said quietly. Kira looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting a mix of gratitude and something deeper, respect, perhaps even trust. "We owe you," she said. Jake shook his head. "No, we helped each other. You showed me courage. I just did what I could." As Kira and her warriors prepared to depart, Jake felt an unfamiliar pang of something he hadn't expected. A sense of belonging, of being part of something bigger than himself. "Where will you go now?" Jake asked as the alien women boarded their ship. "Forward," Kira replied simply. "To freedom. To fight another day." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He watched as the ship lifted off, its engines glowing with renewed power. And as it disappeared into the stars, Jake knew this was only the beginning. His life had changed forever. The reward. The silence in the hangar was surreal after the chaos. Smoke curled from scorched panels, debris littered the floor, and flickering lights cast long shadows across the metal walls. Jake leaned against a console, breathing heavily, blood drying on his sleeve. The Zarkath were gone, for now, but the cost of victory weighed on him like gravity itself. He had expected a routine repair job. Instead, he had helped save a ship, fought alongside alien warriors, and survived an invasion by one of the most feared species in the sector. The clatter of armored footsteps broke the silence. Kira approached him slowly, her tall frame relaxed but purposeful. Her armor, dented and scuffed, still shimmered faintly in the harsh light. A gash ran along her jaw, already healing, the result of a near-fatal strike. Yet she carried herself with the same unshakable grace as before. "You are wounded," she said, her voice quieter now, less clipped. Jake chuckled, wincing. "Nothing a med patch and a week of rest won't fix. I've had worse. Well, not much worse." Kira's eyes lingered on him, unreadable and intense. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she held something out to him, a data crystal engraved with alien runes. "This contains coordinates. A place hidden from the Zarkath, a sanctuary of my people. Few outsiders know it exists." Jake took the crystal slowly, uncertain. "What's this for?" Kira stepped closer. "You've done more than repair a ship. You gave us a fighting chance. You risked your life for people you didn't know. That kind of loyalty is rare and valuable." Jake looked down at the crystal, then back up at her. "You're inviting me?" "Yes," she said. "You have earned a place among us. If you choose to come, you will not be treated as a mechanic. You will be treated as one of our own." Jake's brow furrowed. "What does that mean exactly?" Kira tilted her head slightly, her eyes softer now, almost warm. In our culture, bonds are forged through action, through sacrifice. You have passed a trial that many of our own would have failed. She paused, then added, there are few males in our warrior caste, fewer still who are unbound. Your presence would be welcomed, celebrated. Jake's heart skipped a beat as her meaning sank in. You're not just thanking me, he said slowly. You're offering me something else. A new life, a chance to belong, to fight, to live, to form bonds. Her voice lingered on the last phrase with subtle meaning. Jake looked at her, then at the remnants of the battle. He thought of the long days spent in isolation on the station, the hollow routine of repairing machines while life passed him by. And he thought of Kira, proud and unbreakable, and the way her people had looked to him not just as a tool, but as a comrade. Is this one of those cultural mating reward things I've heard about in xenology books? He joked, half nervous. Kira's lips twitched in the faintest smile. We do not bind lightly, but when we do, it is with purpose. You would be honored, not owned. Jake let out a long breath. You're serious. I do not jest. He looked at the data crystal again. A new world, a new people, a new purpose. His whole life had been about fixing things, machines, systems, problems. Maybe now he had the chance to fix something else, himself. The parts of him that had been drifting, aimless. Jake straightened and slipped the crystal into his pocket. You said I'd be treated as one of your own? Kira nodded. Well, he said with a grin, I've always wanted to see the stars up close. Maybe fix something that matters. Kira stepped forward and did something that surprised him. She extended her arm, and when he grasped it, she pulled him into a warrior's embrace. Her voice, barely above a whisper, brushed his ear. You matter. They stood like that for a moment, the air between them charged with something new, not just gratitude, but mutual respect, maybe something more. As her ship returned for him the next day, its hull gleaming from the repairs he had completed, Jake stood on the edge of the station, looking out at the black sea of space. He had lived a solitary life, tucked away in the corners of human expansion. But now, he was stepping into something unknown, an alien culture, a new alliance, and possibly a deeper connection than he'd ever dared imagine. When the hatch opened, Kira was there, her posture proud, her expression unreadable. But her eyes, those strange, glowing eyes, softened when they met his. Jake walked up the ramp, not as a mechanic, not even as a hero, but as something new, something he hadn't expected to become. And as the stars stretched ahead, he smiled. Not every reward shines with gold or medals. Some come wrapped in purpose, and others, in the gaze of someone who sees you not just for what you fix, but for who you are.